The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. 5 minutes late. I'm sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me, as always, DFO's Nick Martin. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm excited. We got a good slate here. Got a good Caps game, so that's always
Don't
fun.
lie to me. Don't lie to me.
I think
just
it's a
joking.
good. I think it's a good slate from a fan perspective. I think there's some
For sure.
really interesting matchups. I thought from a betting perspective, maybe a little light, but a lot of good games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I found a few bets that I really like today, so it's not too bad. But obviously, with the holiday in the United States on Monday, they had a big day of hockey, and that kind of lessens the load on Tuesday. Just 8 games in the NHL today, so not as much to talk about as we would usually have on a busy Tuesday. But still a pretty good slate nonetheless. But I think with the big matchup tonight between the Edmonton Oilers and the Washington Capitals, we got to start there with Alex Ovechkin coming to town, looking to continue his quest to break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. Of course, Ovechkin needs 21 more goals to break the record, and I guess we'll start with that question: do you think he's going to do it this season? The odds on in the betting market. I mean, I saw DraftKings today has Ovechkin at plus 200 to break the record this season. So the odds aren't in his favor, but as we saw earlier this season, he can go on a tear and rack up a lot of goals in a short amount of time. So not impossible, but unlikely, I guess. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe I want to give him a slightly better chance than plus 200. I think that he's going to get really close. If the Caps can keep winning games at the rate they are, it's going to help. He's going to keep pouring in these empty netters. Um, I mean, I think he's obviously going to slow down some, but I feel like that's kind of discrediting what he's done a little bit, especially if they can really stay right up in the standings and kind of try to work to cheat and get him a lot more goals. And I think obviously part of that is odds makers are expecting him to slow down, which makes sense. He's been finishing chances at a super high rate. But I also think a big part of the drop off last year was how little help he had, which we said entering the year, we gave out Ovechkin to score 30 and score 40. So hopefully he can get those done for us. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really close. And I think one of the very last games is against the Penguins. So I'm just really hoping that somehow it works out where he does break the record versus them.
Well, he's got 21 goals in 30 games. Obviously, he suffered that broken leg, and that kept him out for 5 weeks. I'd say he'd probably be at the 30 goal mark by now, if not for that injury. And I still think that's a pretty safe bet. Not sure about 40, but 30 goals seems like a safe bet considering how much time is left in the season. He doesn't have a goal, or he has 2 goals over his last 5 games. Sorry, so. Doesn't have a goal, though, again, in Edmonton since 2019. So he's gone goalless in his last 3 trips to Rogers Place versus the Oilers. But there's going to be a little less star power tonight in the game without Connor McDavid. Of course, McDavid served that 3-game suspension for cross-checking Connor Garland. I'm a little bit disappointed because, taking my boy to the game tonight, hoping to see 2 greats going at it, McDavid and Ovechkin, but I guess I'll have to settle for Edmonton's best player, Leon Draisaitl. Right now, he's gonna have to step up big time, like he did when McDavid was out for the 3 games earlier this season. But still, quite a bit of star power heading into this matchup. We were talking a bit before the show, and I'm not sure if you locked it in or not, but you were kind of leaning toward the Capitals as well. I wrote about this game at Oilers Nation today, and I took the Capitals and under 6 goals. So the Capitals were plus 123 at the time. Things have kind of continued to move here at Pinnacle right now. Washington is plus 132. So I guess the market kind of expecting a Charlie Lindgren start. I'm still hoping for that Logan Thompson start. That would give us the best chance to win this game tonight versus the Edmonton Oilers. But we will see. Nothing has been confirmed as of right now. At least I don't think so. Anyways, nothing was confirmed a few minutes ago. We'll double check on that. But how do you see this game? How do you see this game playing out, Nick?
Yeah, I like the Caps at plus 130. I think they're a good bet here. Like you said, the Oilers got by without McDavid earlier on in the year, but I still think obviously you have to put a lot of weight on his loss. And we've talked a lot about the Caps kind of tailing off there, but I have liked I think their last 3 games they've played much better, and I do expect that they'll be up for this one. I feel like it's kind of a spot where I want to back a team that's on top of the league. So I think plus 130 is a pretty good number. Chances are it will be Lindgren. I think we'll see. Like you pointed out to me, it would make more sense for them to go with him versus the Kraken, but they've kind of viewed them as 1A and 1B all year. And I do think that they would probably like to kind of monitor Logan Thompson's minutes, even if you would think it makes more sense to play him play Lindgren versus the Kraken. I wouldn't really be surprised to see Lindgren here. And like you said, the market seems to be expecting Lindgren. So with that
Yeah,
said,
maybe hopefully they want to ride the hot hand though, because Thompson has been really good lately. He was named the first star of the week last week after going 3-0. Posted a 0.33 goals against average and a 984 save percentage with 2 shutouts. And he's been having the best season of his career. So obviously it would be nice to see him in goal. But talk to me a little bit about this Capitals team. As you mentioned, they've started to slip lately, at least in terms of their underlying metrics. They are on a 4-game win streak, a 10-game point streak. So, things are still going pretty good in Washington overall. But you look at their expected goals from, the first, 3 months of the season, they were up in the top of the league. And now over the last month, they're, down closer to the bottom 10. So not great at even strength right now. But yeah, this team has a lot going for it heading into this matchup still.
yeah, and I do still like a lot of what's going on with the roster. Still think they can compile a really solid top 6. Love the blue line. So I do feel like to some extent, obviously the numbers got really bad there, but I did still feel pretty confident on the upside of the roster. I don't think they were just like a complete fluke to be this good. And like I said, over the last 3 games, small sample and not great teams, but they do have a 63.7% expected goal share. So they have bounced back. I think if you listen to the word around the team, no one was happy with the way they had been playing despite the results. So I think they all kind of felt like they had more in the tank. So I'm just kind of looking at this one without McDavid. You're getting the team that's won more games than anyone else in the league. I think it's a decent shot for sure at plus 130.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of pains me. I would love nothing more than to, go see the Oilers win an exciting, high-scoring game. But I do like the Capitals and the under at what, -1, probably -123 right now. What is this sitting at now? -116 over at Pinnacle. So pretty much where it was when I locked it in earlier this morning. But yeah, you mentioned like. Yeah, they're not a total fluke to be doing this good, but I don't think anybody would have thought they would have improved this much after squeaking into the playoffs last year with a -37 goal differential, the worst in the salary cap era for a playoff team. They're leading the league right now, not just in the standings, but plus 50 on the season in terms of goal differential. So a huge turnaround for the Caps. And a lot. It just goes to show what can happen with some good drafting. One good offseason, really. They brought in Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jacob Chikrin, and as we mentioned, Logan Thompson, who are all having the best seasons of their respective careers right now. In fact, Dubois and Chikrin are leading the team in points since November 10th. So yeah, really getting great contributions from their new players and getting some great contributions from their draft picks too, like Protas and Connor McMichael, who have 38 and 34 points respectively, have been really even across the board, 19 goals and 19 assists for Protas and 17 goals, 17 assists for McMichael. So, and of course, you can't forget about Dylan Strome, who has cooled off quite a bit, but he does lead the team still with 46 points this season. So, yeah. It's going to be an interesting matchup without Connor McDavid. I expect to see hopefully a not a big performance from Leon Draisaitl for once, because that would certainly help our bet. But if anything, I'll ask for a Zach Hyman goal for my son, who's really looking forward to seeing him live. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Before
Sorry.
we move off the Caps too, I feel like I just got a comment. The amount of takes I've been seeing about teams just needing to do what the Caps are doing, draft well, like all these things. I feel like it's so much easier said than done. Like I'm seeing
Yeah,
people dunk on
absolutely.
the Penguins and all these teams, and it's yeah. I mean, if you happen to draft a bunch of studs and make a bunch of dicey offseason moves that work out, your team will be good. But I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to be seeing teams replicate this over and over the way the
No,
Caps have
absolutely
happened
not.
to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't call their offseason moves dicey though. I think all three moves, bringing in Dubois. Dubois was a risky bet, I guess, but Chikrin, has been a guy that a lot of teams have been, have sought after over the last number of years. He didn't work out with the Ottawa Senators, but I don't think it's not really surprising that he's come in and played well for Washington. Maybe not. A little bit surprising that he's played as well as he has, but I think he's done a really good job in Washington this year.
Yeah,
And of course, Logan Thompson. I mean, he has showed a lot during his time with the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think that was a really good bet on their part.
yeah, and I think if there's one pattern amongst them all, they took guys that were high picks on terrible teams. Really, like that was,
Yeah.
and I guess Dubois you wouldn't put in that mix, but it did seem like a really bad fit last year in LA. And I do think there's a number of forwards that weren't thrilled with the coaching situation. So yeah, credit to them for kind of buying low on all those guys.
Yeah, and once again, before we move off this game here, not sure how the Oilers are going to shuffle their lines, and I'm not sure if anything has come out quite yet. When I was writing my article earlier this morning, there had been no, confirmation on lineups or anything like that from head coach Chris Knobloch, but it did look like Jeff Skinner was going to play on the third line with Adam Henrique and Connor Brown. That's who he skated with at practice yesterday. But I saw Jason Greger, Oilers Nation writer and local radio host, kind of pondering whether it might be Kasperi Kapanen that moves up and plays with RNH and Zach Hyman, which I think could be a good option. I mean, Kapanen has shown some jump this season, and or maybe Skinner moves up to play alongside RNH and Hyman, but we will see. As far as what else I have, I think I'll save that for now. Let's get into the Canucks because I kind of want to talk about the whole McDavid suspension a little bit longer. I just, it's not a surprise that he was suspended for 3 games. I think he it's a deserving suspension. We can debate all day about the length of the suspension because of the precedent that's been set with some of the other cross-checking suspensions we've seen. Matthews, for example, got 2 games for his cross-check earlier this season. And so yeah, that's up for debate, but I don't think anybody disagrees that McDavid should be suspended right now. It was a bad play, but man, it's I watched that play over and over again, and I just come away with is looking at Connor Garland and thinking, man, that's just such a passive aggressive cowardice way to play. Kind of just trying to bend the rules, wrapping your legs around the guy. Like, I mean, no wonder McDavid, after all the abuse he's put up with, you look back to a few games ago against the Los Angeles Kings, the slew foot by Adrian Kempe, which was, I can't believe that wasn't a suspendable play, considering how dangerous it is. It doesn't surprise me that McDavid lost it and just said whatever, and he sought some retribution because the refs are not doing a good job protecting the Stars. That's the reason we go to watch the games. That's, if it wasn't for the Stars, we could just go watch, the Oil Kings every night and not pay the big bucks to go see the Edmonton Oilers and other NHL teams. But yeah, the NHL has to do something besides just saying, just play through the crap and deal with it. Right. Because you're going to get this and people are going to be unhappy about it.
Yeah. I think the other part of it too is, at that point in the game, it's not getting called. Like, I think if you're Garland, it's all just smart. You're what you're doing, picking on McDavid, and
it
at
doesn't
that
change
point
it.
in the game,
It might be smart, but you're still a passive aggressive coward in my eyes.
yeah, I mean, it's smart because they're not going to call it. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like that's the reality of it is that he
absolutely.
knew it was a good spot, and that obviously in that moment,
Oh, he's a smart
was worth
player,
it.
for sure.
So, yeah. And my last comment, I think it's pretty insane that it was 3. I don't know if maybe they felt like they let him off last week with the little elbow, but technically that's not supposed to play into their decision at all, given that it's only things that end up being a suspension that are supposed to count to your history. So I don't know. It seemed pretty crazy when it was 3. I thought it would have been 2. I felt like they had a pretty easy one there, but anyways, no need to dwell on that too long.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could, but
I
the
think a lot of
Vancouver
people
Canucks.
have, but
Yeah, for sure. The Vancouver Canucks hosting the Buffalo Sabres tonight, currently at Pinnacle. The Canucks a minus 170 money line favorite. Buffalo coming back on the other side at plus 153. I understand you have a prop in this game that you like.
yeah, I do. And this game is crazy. I had to triple check this, and I feel like I'm still pulling out the schedule and looking at it. The Canucks haven't won two straight since pretty much the last time these teams met on November 29th. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They have obviously really fallen off. And a big part of it has just been how bad the defensive core has been. And I'm looking to Quinn Hughes in this spot, which I think will be trendy, but I like the number
Have
minus
obviously really
131 for
fallen
him to
off,
record
and
3 shots. I think is a really solid bet. With Myers sideline, they have put Hughes with Friedman, so I think that kind of indicates to some
Elliot.
extent Mark Friedman, and I think to some extent that indicates they're probably Talkett's hoping to not play Quinn Hughes 30 minutes in this game. I think he probably feels like that gives him a little more balance on the other two pairings, but I don't really think it's going to go that way. I feel like it's just going to work out where Hughes ends up playing huge minutes and looks really dominant in the offensive zone. So all in all, I think that this is a pretty good number. He had been a little lighter in terms of shots on goal since he got back from his injury, but over the last 10 games, he still averaged 7.1 shot attempts per game. The Sabres are below average, as you would expect, in terms of their defensive play. But I also think that this probably will end up being a slightly closer game than the prices suggest. So all in all, I think there's a lot to like about the price, and I'm pretty happy to back Hughes in this spot.
Yeah, no, I I agree with you there. It's a good matchup for the Canucks and Quinn Hughes, and Quinn Hughes hasn't let you down too much this season. So I think he'll come through for you tonight. And there are some other interesting games, but the one that I landed on that I wanted to bet on, make another bet on, was the Tampa Bay Lightning in Montreal taking on the Canadians, who are 9-2-1 since December 28th. And they beat the Lightning on December 29th. And I think Tampa Bay learned a little bit of a lesson from that matchup, because that was a back-to-back for the Lightning. It was also a back-to-back for the Canadians as well, who had played in Florida the night before and won. But the Lightning, they decided, on December 28th to start Andre Vasilevsky versus the New York Rangers. They won that game 6-2. And then fast forward to the next night, they start Jonas Johansson against the Montreal Canadiens and lose 5-2. So I think they realize that catching the Toronto Maple Leafs is not really their priority right now. It should be keeping the Canadiens as far back behind them as they can, because there's just 3 points separating these two teams right now. The Montreal Canadiens are just 2 points back. Are they? I can't. Yeah, 2 points back behind the Boston Bruins for the second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, with 2 games in hand as well. So the Canadians in a pretty good spot. They look like the real deal. I think you look over the last month, evolving hockey, expected goals, shot attempt percentage, goal share. They're better than the Lightning in all of those aspects at even strength. But the thing that would scare me away from betting Montreal to win outright in this one is just how good Tampa Bay has been on special teams. Of course, they remain a top 10 team on the power play. They've been really good on the penalty kill as of late and all season long, pretty much. And while Montreal has been pretty good on the kill, they what is it here? They killed off 82.7% of the penalties they took in the first 37 games, but they've allowed 8 goals while down a man in their last 9 games. So I think it's pretty imperative that they try to stay out of the box on Tuesday versus the Lightning. But this goaltending matchup, Andre Vasilevsky versus Sam Montembeault, has me taking the regulation tie at plus 320 or better. You can get plus 327 at Pinnacle. I think this is a good bet. Montreal has been to overtime in 5 of their, or shootout in 5 of their last 8 games. And I think, the long odds, the goaltending matchup, it all works out for me wanting to bet on this game going to overtime. So I think it's a good look. Tampa Bay, they are 5-6-1 since they lost that game on December 29th against the Montreal Canadiens. And not playing that great that I don't think Montreal can hold their own in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think I almost kind of lean with Tampa, but I agree you're probably not quite getting the number. And like you said, Montreal has been legitimately good. I'm just kind of curious if the strength of the roster can keep this up, even if the analytics have been quite strong of late.
Yeah.
I actually bet the tie in Saturday's game versus the Leafs. So there was a brief moment where I felt happy and then completely fell apart. But yeah, I obviously Montreal has been a lot better. I still feel like it's kind of surprising that the roster has been this good. I know one big part of it that I really thought could happen was the trade for Carrier has worked out really good. And I don't really know. I feel like Barry Trotz's little fire sale has just been a lot of moves to make moves. It seemed pretty
Yeah.
clear that Montreal had a good chance of winning that trade, even if Nashville has been a little better since then. I think Carrier is clearly the better player. So I liked that move for them, and I feel like it really has helped to stabilize the defense core. He's been really good alongside Gouli. So there's much to like here with the Canadians, but I do think we're going to see a really good game from the Lightning in this spot.
Yeah, great coach, but I mean, he's kind of, I don't know, made an ass out of himself a few times here as the general manager, and I think it all started with Yaroslav Askarov. I mean, like you know, he was so public about his thoughts on Askarov, and you know, now I mean he's looked pretty good. Maybe he's not ready for the NHL, but it is the San Jose Sharks that he's playing behind, right? So
Yeah,
not the best situation to judge a young goaltender, but I mean he's shown signs, particularly in the game versus the Oilers about a month ago. He was unbelievable, and he's shown some real flashes of greatness in his time with the San Jose Sharks. And I think Trotz will, in the end, probably kick himself in the ass for that one.
yeah, and I do think Trotz's strengths. It's one of those things he's so loved in the game, and obviously as a Caps fan, I still love him. But to some extent, I do think that he always exhibited weaknesses in evaluating young talents, and I think he was one of those coaches where he had certain things that he would not live with players not doing, and it obviously led to a lot of good defensive structure and play. But I do think there was guys like Nate Schmidt was a healthy scratch when the Caps got knocked out versus the Penguins in 2007 or 2017. I'll always remember it because he was probably their third best defender at the time. He was playing so well, and they scratched and played Mike Weber, who gave up the game-losing turnover. So, and I do think we've seen patterns like that with Trotz and his young players a lot. So the moves haven't really surprised me, but yeah, I don't know if him as a GM is going to quite work out the way Nashville had hoped.
Anytime I think about the Penguins Predators Cup final in 2017, I can't help but think about how I got Nashville to outshoot Pittsburgh at plus 222 going into that series. And whew, that was an easy one.
That's crazy. Yeah. That whole series
I
makes me
mean,
mad because I wanted Pittsburgh to lose, and it's pretty frustrating. But
yeah, I had the Predators to win the Stanley Cup that year, so I was also pretty frustrated just in the result, but still made some money nonetheless. And yeah, I mean, there's a decent slate tonight, but I'm not seeing anything else that I'm incentivized to bet on just yet. Obviously, the Florida Panthers a big favorite versus the Anaheim Ducks minus 257 in Anaheim tonight. We talked about Buffalo and Vancouver, Washington and Edmonton. The Sharks, we just talked about a little bit. They are a big plus 324 underdog in Nashville against the Predators. So that'll be an interesting game, considering all that's gone on there. I wonder, no, they have not confirmed a goaltender, but I would imagine maybe Alexander Georgiev is back in the crease for this one, considering Askarov got the start in Boston, and things did not go so well for the Sharks in that game. Although it was a pretty entertaining game, a good way to kick off the day yesterday with a 3-3 tie at one point, and or 2-2. Was it 3-3? I don't think it got to 3-3 actually. What am I saying? But it was a pretty fun game overall, for at least for me as a Bruins fan. There haven't been a lot of fun games this year.
I bet the Sharks and I bet Celebrini to get a point, and didn't get either. So that was a tough one. I felt like they're both decent. The one that I think, or the one prop that I want to go into, because we didn't touch on this on Thursday, I don't think, but I like the Blues to make the playoffs. They're at plus 560. I think that's a pretty good bet. And I think Utah is the best team of the bunch in the mix if they get healthy. If they have Sean Durzi, people have been saying they want to make a move, which I could see. They've got almost too many prospects to develop, but I think plus 560 for the Blues looks really long when you dive into it. They've been the best out of the Flames, Canucks, and them by a wide margin in terms of expected goals for the last 2 months. They've got a better record. The gap really isn't that wide at all. Maybe you could wait and see if the Canucks win tonight. The Blues are going to have to beat Vegas again tomorrow night. So timing wise, maybe you're not thinking it's the most ideal, but I think obviously if the Blues win that game, the odds are going to swing even heavily or more heavily. And just looking at it, like this is not a very big lead for that kind of a number when the argument that the Blues are playing the best out of any of them is pretty strong. They're 1 point back at the Flames, and even with the Canucks, having played 3 less games. So I think that with how badly the Canucks have fallen off, I don't really know that we're going to see that change. I think this is just a Canucks team that was overvalued entering the year and has just kind of remained overvalued all season just based off what they did last year. So I like that. And then obviously to talk about the Flames a little bit here, Wolf has been unreal. And I think if you want to get into them, maybe if that 55-1 for him to win the Calder is still out there, that could be a good way. But I'm not really seeing them able to keep this up much longer. I think the offense has just been so horrible and it's not really going to change. So yeah, I think plus 560 is a really long number. I'd be curious. I don't know if you've updated your model on the standings, but to me it just seems pretty far off that it's the price is that good. I know it might not be as sharp of a model, but Money Puck has the Blues at 31.5%. So based off them, they'd be arguing pretty strong value at plus 560 as well.
Yeah, hard to argue that. No, I haven't updated as far as today, so I can't tell you exactly what I have for St. Louis at this point. But yeah, no, I like that. I like that look as well. But yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday for another episode of Wednesday. Sorry, I'm mixing up my days of the
You're
week
right.
here. Yeah, I'm right. We'll be back on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time right here on the Daily Face-Off or DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel. Thanks for all the support. Saw a lot of great numbers in the podcast downloads last week. So I know you all are finding your way over to the new feed, and we've probably got some new listeners from the Action Network feed, formerly Line Change. So that certainly helps as well. But yeah, drop a like on the video, share it with your friends, and yeah, that's about all you can do to really help us out here on the DFO Betting and Fantasy YouTube channel. But until tomorrow, good luck with your bets and enjoy the games.